I'm sure by now everyone watching this is aware of the horrific fires in Maui, now considered the deadliest wildfire in U.S. history. That is, if you consider Hawaii to be part of the United States, which we'll get into that in a bit. But the fires have destroyed the beautiful and historic town of Lahaina, once the capital of the Hawaiian kingdom. If you have extra cash laying around and want to help, and especially if you have ever visited the island as a tourist, please give if you can. Check out the Hawaii People's Fund, the Hawaii Community Foundation, or the Council of Native Hawaiian Advancement. In addition to those, I've also personally donated to the Maui Humane Society because there are a lot of our four-legged friends who need help as well. As always, links to everything are in the transcript, which is linked in the description below. A lot of people are shocked that this could happen in a place that we tend to think of as being a lush paradise. Maui has a wet season from November to March-ish, and even the dry season has some parts of the island getting a decent amount of rainfall, at least, compared to somewhere like here in Northern California, where our dry season is a time in which we're constantly at risk of drought and wildfire. So how could this happen in Maui? It's understandable then that a lot of people have thought about this question and come to the conclusion that it must have been caused by Jewish space lasers. Jewish space lasers first gained serious popularity amongst conspiracy theory circles a few years back when the internet discovered a 2018 Facebook post from Marjorie Taylor Greene, in which she postulated that the California wildfires of that same year were caused by the Jewish Rothschild banking family firing laser beams from space. She wrote, "Then oddly, there are all these people who have said they saw what looked like lasers or blue beams of light causing the fires, and pictures and videos. I don't know anything about that, but I do find it really curious PG&E's partnership with Solarin on space solar generators starting in 2009. They announced the launch into space in March 2018 and maybe even put them up before that. Space solar generators collect the sun's energy and then beam it back to Earth to a transmitter to convert to electricity. The idea is clean energy to replace coal and oil. If they're beaming the sun's energy back to Earth, I'm sure they wouldn't ever miss a transmitter receiving station, right? I mean, mistakes are never made when anything new is invented. What would that look like anyway? A laser beam or light beam coming down to Earth, I guess. Could that cause a fire? I don't know. I hope not. That wouldn't look so good for PG&E, Rothschild Inc., Solarin, or Jerry Brown, who sure does seem fond of PG&E. Yeah, PG&E screwing up and beaming a laser to Earth makes way more sense than PG&E screwing up and having their own power lines and poor infrastructure cause wildfires, which is what happens, by the way. PG&E shouldn't exist. Anyway, she ends by saying, "But what do I know? I just like to read a lot." Sure, Jan. Try reading something other than Protocols of the Elders of Zion. A good anti-Semitic conspiracy theory rarely dies, even when it involves a ludicrous assertion. So we are, of course, seeing the same idea pop up now in the wake of the Maui wildfires. For instance, check out this fucking dweeb with 1.2 million Twitter followers who is posting things like, "Perfect circle burning in the Maui fires. Does this look natural to you?" Which it does, by the way. This happens all the time with wildfires. Experts have been very clear about this. And "Are you prepared to handle the truth?" with an image of the burning Waiола Church in Lahaina on which someone has helpfully photoshopped a space laser. And also, "I was warned not to post this video." Presumably, he was warned not to post it as proof that space lasers destroyed Lahaina because it shows a transformer exploding in Chile posted to YouTube 2 months ago. Here's another asshole with more than 104,000 followers posting a photo of a 2019 SpaceX launch from California and passing it off as a laser striking Maui. While misinformation has always been a problem on Twitter, it's impossible to miss how Elon Musk's recent changes to the platform have made it so much worse. The most popular posts are coming from people who have paid for verification, which not only makes their posts appear to be from legitimate news sources, but which now also means that the algorithm prioritizes their posts and shows them to more people. The final cherry on top is that Musk has introduced revenue sharing, which means that these accounts are actually incentivized to post absurd misinformation that will be most likely to be retweeted by conspiracy theorists and also quote tweeted by skeptics who are trying to debunk them or just dunk on them. By the way, if you're reading all of this in the transcript and clicking on the links, that's why I haven't linked to any of these jabronis directly. I don't want them making more money off of this. I find it interesting that a lot of these accounts go on to suggest that the fires were started by rich people in order to secure that land for themselves. And we see this over and over with all kinds of conspiracy theorists. They're so close to getting it. Like with Marjorie Taylor Greene blaming PG&E. Like, you're so close. In this case, yeah, the fires were started by rich people in a way. And yeah, rich people are going to try to benefit from them. But the truth is a little more complicated than just space lasers. Obviously, this is still early, and investigators will eventually figure out exactly how the fires started and how they spread. But there are two very clear problems that have set the stage for this to happen: climate change and colonialism. Climate change, which continues to plague the planet thanks in large part to billionaire fossil fuel executives and the politicians they buy, is causing more extreme weather events around the world every year. Scientists predicted that we would see more events like this, and now we are. So in the case of Maui, they recently experienced what's known as a flash drought, moving from not abnormally dry at all in May to 83% abnormally dry or in moderate or severe drought just 3 weeks later. That's insane. Flash droughts are becoming more and more common due to climate change, and so are more intense hurricanes, like the one 500 miles off the coast of Maui that caused strong winds, perfect for fanning flames. So that's one way that, yeah, the rich people lit these fires. Let's talk about the other one, colonialism. The last time I talked about the horrific effects of colonialism, there were a lot of people in the comments arguing that it's not true and that I just hate white people. Just a note for those people who are gearing up to jump into the comments on this video, that's not actually a good rebuttal of my points, because two things can be true at the same time. Colonialism's evils can reverberate throughout history in ways that continue to cause problems for everyone today. And I hate white people. So let's get into it. At the start of the 19th century, Lahaina town was mostly wetlands. But within a few decades, Christian missionaries arrived and began setting up large-scale sugar plantations, which required the digging of tunnels, building of reservoirs, basically redirecting vast quantities of fresh water to their mills, with an entire ton of water required to produce just 1 pound of refined sugar. It also required large-scale deforestation, with a cord of wood required to burn for 4 hours to turn that sugar into molasses. There's a lot that I'm not going to get into here about how these plantations, as well as James Dole's, the pineapple guy, displaced native Hawaiians, hired them on as basically indentured servants, suppressed their language, and then destroyed their system of governance and forced them to become a part of the United States against their will. But just know that they abused their local workers to the point that in the 1920s, as part of a kind of global labor movement, these workers finally rebelled, forming unions, striking for better working conditions. The companies decided that rather than do that, it was cheaper to just move on and destroy people in other countries. So they abandoned their Hawaiian mills. Not only did they leave behind land stripped bare of trees and drained dry of fresh water, but now there were these large areas that were no longer being irrigated, left to be overrun, not with native plant life that had evolved to grow in fertile soil, but with invasive grasses that could handle this completely devastated landscape. As I mentioned earlier, Maui still has a wet season, but now that wet season leads to the overwhelming growth of these invasive grasses. And guess what burns really, really well in a wildfire? That's right, grass, especially grass that went through a rainy season growth spurt, immediately followed by a flash drought that makes them nice and crispy. If you're interested in hearing more about this, I recommend that you check out Kaniela Ng, the director of the Green New Deal Network. And there are a lot of other Native Hawaiians who are out there being incredibly generous about sharing their expertise on the history, the present, and the future of Hawaii. And this is where we get to the conspiracy theorist claims that the rich people set these fires purposely to gain control of the land. Again, so close. Rich people didn't need to set the fires intentionally. Hundreds of years of capitalism and colonialism did it for them. But yes, they will attempt to profit from this tragedy because that's what rich people do. They profit from the pain and misfortune of others with sociopathic ease. Displaced Hawaiians are already reporting that within days of their homes burning down, realtors and developers are offering them cash for their land. Imagine your home and everything you owned is gone. The hotels and flights off the island are full of tourists, so there's nowhere to go if you don't have money and a lot of it. And here's someone offering you that money, but to get it, you'll have to give up the only capital you have left, and you'll have to give it up for a song. So this may very well lead to an increase in the number of displaced and unhoused Native Hawaiians, which was already a problem before this happened. So we might see even more rich white Americans coming in for their second or third vacation home in paradise, leaving Native Hawaiians with nowhere to go. The only way to stop this may be for the U.S. government to step in and provide substantial relief to the people who are affected by this, and to set down serious restrictions on what gets built on Lahaina Town's charred remains. The government can prioritize rebuilding in a sustainable way that can not only provide ample housing for the island's population, but also rehabilitate an environment devastated by centuries of purposeful mismanagement. Or, the U.S. government could just pull up stakes and turn over Hawaii back to the Hawaiians who were managing pretty well for a century or two before, the missionaries came in. But we don't deal in fantasies on this channel, sorry. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. If you loved the video, please subscribe. And if you think the world could use more videos like this and you happen to have a few bucks laying around, head to patreon.com/Rebecca and join an awesome community of nerds like the people whose names you see on the screen right now. Thanks.